At Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 146, 821, Returning to Lingxiao City. 146th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. I'm going to Lingxiao City with you. Just as Li Wei and Tuoba Buchuo were about to depart, Zuoqiu Hongting, having learned the situation from Qi Shui and the others, caught up with them at the seaside. Tuoba Buchuo glanced at Li Wei with a curious expression. Zuoqiu Hongting's expression turned serious. We can't influence the clashes between the Sword Dao Imperial Court, the Grand Palace Master, the Demon Monarch, the Heavenly Demon Empress, and figures like the Lion Taming King. But we're not without leverage. We don't have to be mere pawns, we can make our own choices. The Demon Monarch wants the Jade Tome of the Life-Preserving Spring. He intends to use this wedding ceremony to force you into becoming an enemy of Bu Lianxi, the 8th-generation Immortal Ascension being. We can assume that all the 8th-generation Immortal Ascension beings from the Demon Kingdom will gather at the Sword Dao Imperial City on New Year's Eve. The Heavenly Demon Empress plans to use the 8th-generation Immortal Ascension beings from both the Demon Kingdom and the Sword Dao Imperial Court to kill you, regain her lost face, and eliminate future threats. During the Immortal Ascension competition, 8th-generation Immortal Ascension beings are forbidden from attacking 9th-generation Immortal Ascendants. Unless a 9th-generation Immortal Ascendant first challenges an 8th-generation Immortal Ascension being. Such an act would be considered a declaration of war against the entire 8th generation. Li Wei asked, "Are you trying to tell me the choice is mine? Can you truly remain neutral?" Zuoqiu Hongting countered. Li Wei shook his head slightly. We juniors cannot defy the will of our elders. But before the Immortal Ascension competition concludes, you can use the Jade Tome of the Life-Preserving Spring to negotiate with the Grand Palace Master. Alternatively, you can hand the Jade Tome to the Sword Dao Imperial Court and negotiate with them, who will then trade with the Demon Monarch. It all depends on how far you're willing to go for Tangwanzhou. Zuoqiu Hongting added, however, regardless of your choice, if you go to the Sword Dao Imperial City, you'll face a very real problem. What problem? Li Wei asked. Zuoqiu Hongting replied, by what right do you interfere in this matter? You've already done so much to save your fiancé, Zuoqiu Hongting, the world knows it. If you meddle in Tang Wanzhou's marriage as well, you'll be met with ridicule and mockery, losing all momentum and landing in an awkward, indefensible position. Your hard-earned reputation will be shattered. That's not important, Li Wei said. Zuoqiu Hongting shook her head. You may not care, but you can't speak for Tang Wanzhou. That's why I'm coming with you, to shield you from the world's criticism. Tuoba Buchuo's hostility toward Zuoqiu Hongting instantly vanished. He finally understood why Li Wei would risk everything for her. Li Wei didn't want to involve Zuoqiu Hongting in this. Li Wei didn't want Zuoqiu Hongting to make such a great sacrifice for Tang Wanzhou. He escorted Zuoqiu Hongting to the space teleportation formation at the Moon Dragon Island outpost, instructing her to wait at Cave Void Camp. Then, he and Tuoba Buchuo landed at Thunder Prefecture and rode day and night to reach the Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain. The Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain rose 3,000 zhong above the ground, towering above the clouds. It was a vast, elevated realm spanning 3,000 li, having fallen from outer space. 7 years ago, the epic battle between Transcendents and Heavenly Emperors had devastated much of Lingxiao City, a metropolis of 10 million people. The southern 1,000 li of the Immortal Plain had sunk and collapsed hundreds of zhong, shocking the world. During that crisis, Tang Shituo, guarding the North Heavenly Gate, and the Snow Sword Tang Court's forces had blocked the Army of the Dead's attack on the Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain, creating the sole lifeline for Lingxiao City's evacuation. In that cataclysmic battle, millions of the city's residents and cultivators survived. Moreover, they had resolved the mother-child spring crisis. These two monumental achievements earned the Snow Sword Tang Court the support of countless factions after the Imperial Court withdrew from the Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain. Their occupation of Lingxiao City became a natural progression. Had it not been for the resurgence of the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon Meridian Veins, which altered the Lingxiao realm's strategic importance and attracted the covetous eyes of external powers, the Snow Sword Tang Court could have ruled the Immortal Plain unchallenged, overseeing the world below and co-governing with the Zuoqiu sect in the north and south. Under the Crimson Sunset, Li Wei and Tuoba Buchuo rode strange beasts through the East Heavenly Gate, galloping toward Lingxiao City across the Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain. The southern Immortal Plain remained desolate, the ground crisscrossed with countless fissures. The supreme artifact's destructive power had shattered the earth, reshaping the landscape in ways that would take decades to heal. The once thriving 10,000-mile hundred wards within the city, along with its towering walls, were still under reconstruction, far from their former glory. Though facing another crisis, this time Li Wei felt prepared. Unlike 7 years ago, when he had been helpless, disoriented, and utterly without hope, he now possessed the strength to seek a solution. After entering the city, Tuoba Buchuo explained that the lion-taming king had been cursed for years, living in seclusion. Meeting him would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Therefore, he first led Li Wei to the Tuoba prefecture to meet Patriarch Tuoba. The Tuoba prefecture had been rebuilt on the ruins of the former West Sea Prince's mansion. Patriarch Tuoba, once the strongest cultivator in northern border Tanzhou and a master of the Nirvana realm, now oversaw all major affairs of the Snow Sword Tang court on the Cloud Heaven Immortal Plane. Looking back with his current perspective, Li Wei realized that before Qilin Zhuang's return, nearly every province in the Lingxiao realm had at least one transcendent-level elder. Tragically, successive wars had claimed countless lives. One could only imagine the immense power the Lingxiao Palace wielded before the Grand Palace Master was afflicted by the Six Thoughts Divine Mind Curse. At that time, Tang Shituo, Zuoqiu Xuanming, the Thundercloud Sect, Dragon Sect, the Four Great Demon Kings, the Coffin Mountain Forbidden One, and countless others all obeyed its commands, allowing it to mobilize dozens of transcendents. Li Wei entered the prefecture. His first visit was to Tuoba Dao, the veteran sentinel spirit of the Cave Void Camp. When they met, Tuoba Dao sighed deeply, his voice filled with remorse. Wei Yi, it's all my fault. If only I had gathered intelligence sooner, you wouldn't have been caught so off guard. Back when you asked, I truly didn't know about the lion-taming king's predicament. You gave me that demon core and asked me to investigate Lingxiao, but the truth was tightly concealed at the time. Ah, if you had known before the Immortal Ascension competition, you could have prepared properly. Tuoba Dao retrieved the six-colored peacock demon core Li Wei had given him years ago, feeling deeply that he had failed to fulfill his promise and wanting to return it. Tuoba Buchuo stood nearby, listening to their conversation. Only then did he realize he had completely misunderstood Li Wei. It turned out Li Wei had sensed the danger long ago and cared more about the young lord's situation than anyone else. Senior Tuoba, please keep the core. There's no need to return it, Li Wei said. I want to know the specific details about the lion-taming king's situation. What exactly happened? Let me take you to see the ancestor. He's the only one who can explain it clearly. Tuoba Dao, his serpentine body and tail gliding smoothly, led the way. Given Li Wei's status and cultivation realm, it would be no exaggeration to say he was qualified to meet Patriarch Tuoba on equal terms. Patriarch Tuoba understood this better than Tuoba Dao and Tuoba Buchuo. Before Tuoba Dao could even announce his arrival, a voice echoed from within the hall, "Come in directly." The hall doors swung open. Patriarch Tuoba sat cross-legged in midair, his silver pure immortal physique radiating a serene aura. His long beard and flowing hair framed a face etched with ageless wisdom. His robes, woven with threads of purple and gold, shimmered with the transcendent chi that emanated from his immortal body, conveying an aura of indestructible power. Spiritual chi and scriptural verses surged back into his ancestral field like a retreating tide, swirling into a vortex before vanishing. Patriarch Tuoba drifted gracefully to the center of the hall, his gaze lingering on Li Wei as he entered. With a smile, he sighed in admiration. Truly, talents emerge in their youth. This old one had believed Wanzhou to be the most extraordinary talent of the life realm, unmatched under heaven. Yet here you stand, proving even he has his superiors. If you two were to unite in marriage, 1,000 years later, your tale would become a legendary romance. Li Wei returned a junior's bow, then cut straight to the point. I will bring her back. But before I do, I want to understand the full story. Patriarch Tuoba sighed, his eyes reflecting helplessness and resignation. This matter began with the revival of the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon Meridian Veins. When news reached the Sword Dao Imperial Court, the Sword Emperor dispatched an envoy bearing his imperial decree to the Snow Sword Tang Court. He bestowed upon the lion-taming king the title of his third disciple, promising to support us in seizing the Lingxiao realm. Money, manpower, and resources were offered without reservation. I understand this much, Li Wei said. The lion-taming king refused, unwilling to become a puppet or allow the Lingxiao realm to become a battlefield in the power struggle between the Calamity Crossing Temple and the Sword Dao Imperial Court, resulting in the slaughter of countless lives. Tang Wanzhou had once said that if not for the Grand Palace Master's Shoutian Edict, which plunged the world into chaos and brought misery to the people, the Snow Sword Tang Court would never have risen in rebellion. Patriarch Tuoba nodded. But the lion-taming king was indeed a disciple of the Sword Emperor, having received his teachings and protection. Ultimately, both sides agreed on a compromise. We would seize the 4 prefectures of the Nether Realm of the Dead and launch an attack on the East Sea. This would allow us to avoid internal conflict while reclaiming lost territory. The Sword Dao Imperial Court, in turn, could participate in the division of the East Sea's spoils, a win-win situation for both sides. However, we miscalculated one crucial factor. What was that? Li Wei asked. Patriarch Tuoba said, do you truly believe that a heavenly emperor, a figure of such supreme authority, would ever compromise with his disciples? What a laughable notion. The martial mystic Dao heavenly emperor's word is law. Even without explicit commands, his subordinates would discern the imperial will and act to fulfill the heavenly emperor's desires. When war erupted in the 4 prefectures of the Nether Realm of the Dead, the Snow Sword Tang Court was tasked with confronting the Hungry Ghost, one of the 7 Vengeful Ones and 5 Ghost Kings, as those prefectures were its territory. The Sword Dao Imperial Court was responsible for containing the remaining 4 ghosts. After defeating the Hungry Ghost, the Lion Taming King was ambushed by the other 4 ghosts on his return journey. It was during that battle that he was struck by the 3 lifetimes curse. Li Weiyi's expression darkened. As far as I know, the Sword Dao Imperial Court sent Ku Zhao, their number 1 scholar from 5,000 years ago, to assist the Snow Sword Tang Court. She was ennobled as Princess Xiao, a dual cultivator of martial mystic Dao and psychic power, who once exchanged 100 blows with the Holy Dynasty's Grand Minister without yielding ground, proving herself nearly equal to the heavenly emperors in combat prowess. With her strength and the Sword Dao Imperial Court's transcendence, containing 4 ghosts should have been a trivial matter. Patriarch Tuoba replied, Princess Xiao claimed they underestimated the 4 ghosts' cunning and were unfamiliar with the terrain of the 7 vengeful plains. This led to their failure, for which she repeatedly apologized afterward. How can anyone believe that someone with the intellect of a number 1 scholar, a figure who could challenge the heavenly emperor, was specifically tasked with containing the enemy but failed to restrain a single one? Li Weiyi refused to doubt Princess Xiao's intelligence or capabilities. Patriarch Tuoba continued, afterward, the Princess Xiao convened the Council of Transcendence. She declared that the 7 Vengeful Ones and 5 Ghost Kings possessed formidable power, and that the 3 lifetimes curse from ancient Yi City was no ordinary matter. She warned that today it was the Lion Taming King, but tomorrow it could be any of us present. She proposed a change in strategy, attacking the Lingxiao realm instead. Li Weiyi understood. So, they still insisted on following the Sword Emperor's original plan. They believed that because the Lion Taming King had suffered severe injuries and been cursed, he would inevitably compromise. The heavenly fire world couldn't purify the 3 lifetimes curse. Patriarch Tuoba explained, heavenly fire can only purify cursed abominations. To dispel a curse, one must either possess sufficiently high cultivation or employ a special secret technique, such as the Sword Emperor's Sword Heart. But the Princess Xiao claimed the Sword Emperor was in seclusion, and no one knew when he would emerge. The Princess Xiao sent Wanzhou to the Sword Dao Imperial Court to assist them in the Immortal Ascension competition, implying that she might see the Sword Emperor during the ceremony to appoint imperial disciples. In reality, the Sword Emperor never emerged from seclusion. Later, Princess Xiao claimed that after the Immortal Ascension competition concluded, there would be an Emperor Reward Assembly where the Sword Emperor might appear. Even just hearing Patriarch Tuoba's account, Li Weiyi could sense Tang Wanzhou's silent endurance. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 147 822 Viewer. 147th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. The Sword Emperor wasn't truly in seclusion. He was waiting for Tang Shituo to yield. Observers see clearly, while those caught in the situation are blinded. Trapped in the game, one can only be swept along by the currents. Could Tang Shituo compromise? Often, you believe that taking a single step back will resolve your immediate predicament. But you fail to realize that this step is meant to shatter your psychological defenses. After that, you'll have to retreat a second step, a third step. Each step leading you further into irreversible ruin. Li Weiyi asked, is the Emperor's Sword Heart the only solution to the 3 lifetimes curse? Patriarch Tuoba sighed. Do you think the Lion Taming King could pledge allegiance to another martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor? Even if someone were willing to offend the Sword Dao Imperial Court and invite unnecessary trouble, what price would you have to pay as a traitor seeking refuge? And then you'd still face the Sword Emperor's thunderous wrath. You should know the fate of traitors who repeatedly switch sides. In truth, submitting to the Sword Dao Imperial Court is already the least costly option. The Lion Taming King didn't choose immediate surrender. Instead, he's digging in his heels, waiting for a better offer from the Sword Dao Imperial Court, seeing who will lose patience first. After all, the heaven and earth's spiritual qi in the East Sea increases every year. Li Weiyi suddenly understood. No wonder the Lion Taming King didn't garrison the northern territory or the front lines but returned to Lingxiao City. This is his silent rebellion. Now there's a second path, Patriarch Tuoba suddenly said. Li Weiyi's sharp mind immediately grasped his meaning. Senior, are you referring to the Grand Palace Master? Patriarch Tuoba nodded. The 6 Thoughts Divine Mind curse is even more terrifying than the 3 lifetimes curse. The Grand Palace Master's ability to refine it proves she possesses extraordinary means to dispel cursed seals. This might be the foundation of her confidence in plotting against the Snow Sword Tang Court. Weiyi, what price is the Grand Palace Master offering? Li Weiyi shook his head with a wry smile. Senior, you misunderstand. I'm not the Grand Palace Master's envoy, nor am I here to pressure the Snow Sword Tang Court. I want to see the lion-taming king. As dusk fell, Lingxiao City blazed with lantern light. Tang Shituo's secluded retreat was located in the former imperial temple, nestled at the foot of the mountain beneath the Phoenix Pavilion Palace complex. Li Wei waited outside the gate, gazing at the three towering palace complexes in the distance: Phoenix Pavilion, Phoenix Terrace, and Qilin Terrace. The Phoenix Terrace and Qilin Terrace were both severely damaged, leaving a scene of utter devastation. Above, the heaven and earth spiritual qi was so dense it condensed into liquid droplets, transforming into a spiritual qi rain that gathered into waterfalls and spiritual streams across the three mountains. Patriarch Tuoba arrived at the gate and nodded briefly to Li Wei. Li Wei followed him through the courtyard to the entrance of an administrative hall. Li Wei, you should have come to see me at least half a year ago. Back then, I would have given you a second glance, a hoarse, deep voice rasped from the shadows within the hall's wide-open doors. Li Wei bowed respectfully. Senior, I only managed to escape and return to the mortal realm a few days ago. Upon receiving word, I immediately rushed to Lingxiao City. I will certainly handle the matter of Tang Wanzhou. A long silence followed. Tang Shituo emerged from the darkness, his frame withered and gaunt as firewood, his graying hair disheveled across his cheeks as if straining to discern Li Wei's loyalty. He didn't fully step out of the hall, stopping in the doorway with one hand braced against the frame, his breath wheezing like a broken bellows. Li Wei couldn't fully discern Tang Shituo's current state, but his heart still felt as if struck by lightning. He struggled to believe that the towering lion-taming king of 7 years past had become this frail figure. I see now. I believe you. Go. Many things are beyond your control, Tang Shituo said, swaying as he vanished into the darkness of the hall. With a resounding thud, the hall doors slammed shut. Li Wei's voice rang with steely resolve. The matter between the lion-taming king and the Sword Dao Imperial Court is for you alone to resolve, lion-taming king. It's your karma with the Sword Emperor. But Tang Wanzhou's fate is my concern. Since the Sword Dao Imperial Court dares to use her marriage as a bargaining chip, attempting to use the 8th-generation immortal cultivators against me, they will pay a terrible price. They will bitterly regret their greed. Li Wei and Patriarch Tuoba left the Imperial Temple. Inside the hall, Tang Shituo's frail, hunched figure stood with his back to the door. In the darkness, he slowly straightened his spine, becoming as unyielding as a sacred mountain. Their carriage emerged from the cloud mist great formation surrounding Lingxiao Palace. Inside, Patriarch Tuoba explained, the 3 lifetimes refer to birth, aging, and illness. The 3 lifetimes curse forces cultivators to repeatedly endure the torments of infancy, old age, and sickness, trapping them in these states. Li Wei, what do you intend to do? The image of Tang Shituo's sickly, aged appearance lingered in Li Wei's mind as his thoughts drifted back to the Sword Dao Imperial Court. He wondered how Tang Wanzhou was feeling and what state she was in. A scorching heat suddenly surged from his chest. Li Wei immediately glanced at Patriarch Tuoba, but the elder showed no sign of noticing anything amiss. Senior Tuoba, he said, my mind is in turmoil. I need some time to quiet my thoughts. Farewell. After exiting the carriage, Li Wei swiftly vanished into the bustling crowd of the long street. Releasing his profound perception to ensure no one was tracking him, Li Wei retrieved the Dao Ancestor's Tai Chi fish hanging from his neck. The 2 bronze fish slowly rotated, radiating scalding heat. The Dao Ancestor's Tai Chi fish was operating on its own, without any activation. Li Wei made his way to South City and climbed onto the half-rebuilt city wall, gazing southward with a furrowed brow. The bronze ship must be approaching. He muttered. He suspected this was a warning of the bronze ship's imminent arrival. Li Wei's distress deepened. He desperately didn't want to leave. He had forged deep bonds in Yingzhou and had no idea if he would ever be able to return after departing with the bronze ship. But did he even have a choice? According to the Bronze Warship Master, this was a promise his sect had made long ago, and he was the one destined to bear the karmic consequences. He needed to find his eldest senior sister and uncover his true identity. The only way to find the answers, it seemed, was to leave with the bronze ship. Gradually, the Dao Ancestor's Tai Chi fish cooled and ceased its rotation. Li Wei took a deep breath, his gaze hardening. Whatever lay ahead, he had to face it. The bronze ship was one such challenge, and so was the Sword Dao Imperial Court. Tap, tap. Light footsteps sounded behind him. Li Wei tensed, immediately forming a finger seal into a sword. Despite his earlier turmoil, he shouldn't have allowed anyone to approach him unnoticed. This is the devastation wrought by a clash between heavenly emperors. That battle was truly dangerous. Had it been me, I doubt I could have fared better than the Mist Master. Yu Yaozi stopped 3 steps to Li Wei's right, clad in moon-white palace robes. A pale blue ribbon fluttered in the night wind, accentuating her innate grace and ethereal presence. She gazed down at the boundless, ravaged landscape beyond the city walls, her eyes calm as still water, yet she sighed softly. Li Wei released his finger seal and glanced at her. Though he no longer felt the oppressive pressure of facing the heavenly emperor's first-ranked authority, a sense of unfamiliarity lingered. Has the Grand Palace Master been in Lingxiao City all this time? The Mist Master told me your chi signature appeared in the East Sea. Yu Yaozi saw him turn his head to gaze at the empty, dark night sky, his expression heavy with thought. The West Sea King doesn't understand your true value. If he did, he would have immediately reported your request to me, knowing that I used your power to send everyone into the Void Ruins Ancient Kingdom. Your worth far surpasses that of the Jade Tome of the life-preserving spring in the Holy Hall's life realm. Does the Grand Palace Master only value usefulness? Li Wei asked calmly. Yu Yaozi sighed. I knew there was still a rift between us. Our mission is to establish a glorious kingdom spanning the 3,000 provinces. This path will inevitably be fraught with hardships, trials, and challenges to the impossible. Anyone can be replaced, but the Mist Master, you, and I, the three of us are indispensable. The Immortal Ascension competition was merely the first hurdle. Are we going to stumble at the very beginning? Li Wei remained silent for a long moment before asking, please answer me truthfully, Grand Palace Master, did you scheme against Snow Sword Tang Court and Tang Wanzhou? Yu Yaozi remained silent. Li Wei said, I was just a pawn, wasn't I? Before the Immortal Ascension competition, you had already foreseen the outcome. That's why you told me the Demon Kingdom had the power to force me into opposition against the 8th generation Immortal Cultivators, or even the 7th generation Immortal Practitioner. You also told me you would fight for me. Everything was part of your plan, to use me as a pawn, exploit my feelings for Tang Wanzhou, and ultimately subdue the Snow Sword Tang Court. That's correct, Yu Yaozi admitted frankly. But didn't I make it clear before the Immortal Ascension competition? This wasn't exploitation, nor did I treat you as a pawn. We were both pursuing the same goal. Pawns can be sacrificed, but you cannot. We will advance and retreat together, live together, and die together. Li Wei said, before the Immortal Ascension competition, everyone urged me to believe you were different from Yuer, warning me not to place too much importance on the Jade Tome of the life-preserving spring. But I trusted you unconditionally, never doubting you. I dismissed their concerns, believing they simply didn't understand our ideals, our shared pursuit, and our bond. We should never have doubted each other, Yu Yaozi said. Li Wei said, but compared to them, I truly don't understand the Grand Palace Master. We can use any means necessary against our enemies, but why scheme so deeply against our own people? Why inflict such suffering on Tang Wanzhou? Grand Palace Master, you were wrong about Tang Wanzhou. I was not wrong, Jade Yaozi replied. In the Immortal Ascension competition, I will fulfill my promise. I will fight with all my power to protect the Jade Tome of the life-preserving spring to the end. I also ask the Grand Palace Master to honor her promise made before the Immortal. But after this matter, I fear. I can no longer walk the same path as you. Li Wei bowed, turned, and walked toward the base of the city wall. His words weren't solely about Tang Wanzhou. More importantly, the bronze ship was approaching, and he genuinely believed he could no longer accompany Yu Yaozi. This was his farewell. Master. Wait for me. I feel like I've been asleep for ages. Is the Grand Palace Master about to completely refine the 6 thoughts divine mind curse? Am I fading away? Yuer's voice and footsteps echoed behind him as she hurried to catch up. Li Wei stopped, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath, his heart filled with an indescribable mix of joy and sorrow. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 148, 823, The First Day of Meeting with the Great Palace Master. 148th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei turned to face Yuer, who had caught up with him. Compared to the Grand Palace Master's composed demeanor, Yuer's steps were light and full of youthful vitality. Her eyes lacked the Grand Palace Master's calm depth, instead shining with pure, untainted innocence. The Grand Palace Master's eyes, tempered by 3,000 years of accumulated experience, had traversed countless mountains and rivers, weathered treacherous gorges and dangerous streams, endured scorching sun and freezing blizzards, and witnessed the myriad facets of the mortal world. They had ultimately converged into a fathomless, boundless sea, radiating an inherent authority that needed no anger to command respect. Yuer's eyes, however, were still like dewdrops clinging to branches, like clear mountain streams untouched by the trials of towering peaks or the dangerous plunge of waterfalls. Li Wei suppressed a surge of emotions, longing to rush forward and embrace her tightly. But he knew it was no longer appropriate. Yuer's mind had fully matured, she understood her own state and her relationship with the Grand Palace Master. They sat down on a massive boulder atop the city wall. Unlike before, when they had stared into the empty, dark night and the desolate, boundless wasteland, they now gazed down upon the resplendent prosperity of Lingxiao City and the majestic grandeur of the 3 peaks of Lingxiao Palace. Li Wei's mood was naturally different this time as well. This is Lingxiao City, Yuer said, her voice filled with curiosity and anticipation for her future self. Where did the Grand Palace Master live before? In her eyes, the Grand Palace Master represented her future. There, the tallest one. Li Wei pointed toward the Phoenix Pavilion, which soared 1,000 zhang into the sky. The palace structures on Phoenix Pavilion Mountain resembled blazing flames, most of them hidden within the swirling cloud mist. Through the haze, one could faintly glimpse the colossal light and shadow of phoenix feathers suspended across the sky. Master, is that where you carried me out from all those years ago? Yuer asked. No, the Mist Emperor carried you out and handed you to me. You were just this tiny then, Li Wei gestured with his hand to indicate her infant size. Are you hungry? Want something to eat? Yes. Yes. Yuer nodded eagerly, already rising to her feet before Li Wei. She was captivated by the bustling clamor of the ancient city below, everything so new and exciting. Li Wei knew these were their final moments together, and he cherished each one. Every second felt precious. He would grant her every wish, every whim, as long as it brought her joy. That night, they drank wine, a great deal of it. Before this, Li Wei had never allowed her to touch a wine cup. Yuer drank until she was dazed and utterly unconscious. The next morning, she awoke in the dead spirit carriage, lying on a snow-white fox fur mattress. Lifting the curtain, she gazed at the broad official road stretching before them and the desolate wilderness beyond. Master, we've already left Lingxiao City. Where are we going? Just follow me, Li Wei said, flicking his whip to urge the carriage forward at a faster pace. Didn't you say the Grand Palace Master was a great master? Yuer asked, her eyes flashing with suspicion as she hummed softly. We drank the same amount, yet I'm still dizzy while you're completely unaffected. She suspected something was amiss with the Grand Palace Master, even wondering if Li Wei had secretly avoided drinking last night. Perhaps your soul spirit is simply too weak, Li Wei replied. Hearing this, Yuer fell silent, her thoughts drifting elsewhere. She climbed out of the carriage and sat on the other side of the driver's seat. The journey continued in silence. The sun rose higher, directly ahead. They traveled eastward. Yuer gazed at the roadside, her eyes widening at the endless rows of graves and tombstones stretching to the horizon. Master, did many people die here? It's so strange, the graves are denser than even in the nether realm of the dead. This is the forbidden technique of corpse sowing rice, Li Wei explained. It's practiced across several provinces. Many of these graves also hold the remains of those who perished in the great battle years ago. 7 years ago, we fled the Lingxiao realm along this very road, escaping all the way to the Huang River and the East Sea, he added. As they continued, they passed through villages, market towns, and cities, most of which were deserted. In some areas, hundreds of miles stretched without a single sign of human life. Li Wei told Yuer that these prefectures had once been the most prosperous and densely populated regions of the Lingxiao realm. However, decades of war, the practice of corpse sowing rice, and the destructive transcendent battles had reduced them to ruins. Some had lost their homes and families, while others had become food for yin corpses. The people yearned for peace. The Lingxiao realm could no longer endure further conflict, it had already suffered too much. This was why the lion-taming king had refused to submit to the Sword Dao imperial court, he sought only to recuperate and rebuild, not to engage in internal strife. Yuer was no longer a child and understood perfectly that Li Wei's words were meant for the Grand Palace Master. As the sun set, a fierce western wind blew. Li Wei stopped the carriage and, stepping through the withered reeds, led Yuer up the highest nearby hill. Looking back, the cloud heaven immortal plain was no longer visible. Only the radiant golden sunset and the deepening twilight in the east created a stark contrast of warmth and cold across the horizon. Yuer finally voiced the question that had been weighing on her mind all day. Master, do you dislike the Grand Palace Master? Li Wei's face flushed crimson in the sunset's glow. Why would you ask that? Last night, when I woke up, you were clearly preparing to leave. You must have argued. The Grand Palace Master only brought me out to make you stay, Yuer said with the air of someone who had seen through everything. Besides, you've been preoccupied all day. Don't think I haven't noticed. Li Wei gently shook his head. I've never disliked the Grand Palace Master. No matter how the people of the Lingxiao realm view her, I haven't experienced the hardships they have. In my heart, she has always radiated light and possessed a powerful personal charisma. Then why did you two argue? Yuer asked. Because disagreements are inevitable between people. Unless one person completely suppresses their own identity and submits entirely to the other. Li Wei stepped on the reeds as he walked along the mountain peak, each step producing a crisp, popping sound. Balancing emotion and reason is incredibly difficult. No one can maintain perfect impartiality. The less experience you have, the younger you are, the more you value emotions. But with more experience, more exposure, and more setbacks, your choices naturally change. To be absolutely rational, you must become a heartless, ruthless person, walking an extreme path. The Grand Palace Master and I are actually alike. Neither of us has ever considered severing our emotions or suppressing our humanity. When she was young, the Grand Palace Master was certainly deeply emotional. But because of her emotional nature, she made grave mistakes. She must have suffered greatly in her youth, taken many detours, far more than just the Xuanhuan incident. If she had remained sentimental, soft-hearted, and lacking the resolve and cunning after becoming the Grand Palace Master 1,000 years ago, she would never have been able to safeguard the Lingxiao realm, nor would the realm have enjoyed a millennium of peace. She sought to usher in a golden age for the 3,000 provinces, to rescue countless souls from the nether realm of the dead. Such lofty ambitions and ideals, such indomitable will and relentless pursuit, could never be matched by ordinary women. In her position, she made no mistakes. But a divergence remains a divergence. Yuer's sharp wit resurfaced. I understand now. Master, you're saying that your greatest disagreement stems from the difference in age and experience. One of you is still young and prioritizes emotions, while the other is older and more rational. This leads to different ways of thinking and approaches to handling matters. Don't exaggerate by calling her old, Li Wei chuckled. She'd be furious if she heard you. As the last sliver of twilight faded, the temperature plummeted. The two descended the mountain. Li Wei instructed Yuer to rest in the carriage while he drove alone through the night, heading toward the East Sea. 2 days later, they arrived at Wangjiang border city, located at the intersection of Qing Province, Coffin Prefecture, and the Netherrealm of the Dead. Traveling downstream through the 2,000-mile darkness of the Netherrealm would lead them to the East Sea. 7 years ago, Li Wei had brought Yuer here after escaping the Lingxiao realm, staying for a month. Wangjiang border city was now even more prosperous and bustling than before. Cultivators from the 14 prefectures of the southern and western territories preferred this route to the East Sea, as it saved them thousands of miles compared to taking a ship from Thunder Prefecture ferry. Li Wei and Yuer stood outside the inn where they had once stayed. Do you remember this place? He asked. Of course. The innkeeper was so kind. He even gave his 2 sun-repelling pearls, Yuer replied excitedly, hurrying inside to find the old innkeeper. Naturally, she found no trace of him. Li Wei shook his head and chuckled softly. Childhood memories often retain only the pleasant aspects. She had forgotten that the innkeeper wasn't a good man at all, and had already died in the dead spirit market. Sitting in the dining hall on the first floor, Li Wei ordered a lavish spread of dishes. Though it seemed like only 7 years had passed since their last visit, in Li Wei's memories, decades had already elapsed. As dusk fell, lanterns were lit. The joy of revisiting this familiar place gradually faded, replaced by a growing sense that their eternal farewell was drawing near. From now on, Yuer would no longer exist in this world. Memories of their shared past flooded Li Wei's mind as he stared into his wine cup, then glanced toward the entrance. In the warm yellow lantern light, he seemed to see himself from 7 years ago, carrying the young girl into the inn on his back. Back then, he had been so much younger. Yuer, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke, Master, can I see your journal? Li Wei paused in surprise before retrieving a wooden box etched with runes from his cosmic pouch. When he opened it, neatly arranged inside were numerous daily journals, meticulously preserved and clearly treasured. Which entry do you want to read? Li Wei asked. Start with the first one. Yuer took the yellow journal from Li Wei's hand and opened it to the first page. The opening line read, The day I first met the Grand Palace Master went like this. Wow, Master, you're amazing. Master, I'm scared. A hug or a piggyback ride? A hug. Master, I'm a little hungry. We'll eat when we reach the next village. Okay, Master, you're the best. You're the best master in the world. Tears welled up in Yuer's eyes as she read this, her lips pursed. Master, is it because I said I was hungry on the first day we met that you always think I get hungry easily? Is that why you always take me to eat first whenever we meet? Li Wei lowered his head and chuckled bitterly. Perhaps there's some truth to that. Yuer continued reading. After a long while, she closed the booklet, pondering its contents. Master. Please don't dislike the Grand Palace Master, okay? Okay, Li Wei said. Yuer searched for her cloth pouch but couldn't find it. Her gaze fell upon the wooden box on the table, and she retrieved the paper and brush from within. With utmost seriousness, she wrote her final entry. But it wasn't a diary entry. Instead, she wrote to the Grand Palace Master, to my future self, Grand Palace Master, please don't argue with Master anymore. You both need to understand each other better. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 149, 824 Breaking Through to the Xuanhuan Realm, the Martial Mystic Tao Heavenly Emperor. 149th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Yuer's handwriting had lost its childish immaturity, each character now imbued with genuine sincerity and reluctance. The tip of her brush trembled slightly, the ink varying in depth. I know I'm not you. You must have experienced things I can't understand, witnessed the ever-shifting nature of human hearts. You've traveled so far, risen so high, it must have been incredibly difficult, right? I asked Master about you. He doesn't dislike you at all. He said you've always shone brightly in his heart. Master explained that your disagreements stem from the differing weights you place on reason and emotion. I believe reason is for protection, while emotion is for remembering why we protect. There's no need for you to keep arguing about this. 7 years ago, when we were escaping the Lingxiao realm, I remember it being pitch black, freezing cold, and terrifyingly dangerous. But when Master held me, I felt so warm and safe. Back then, I vowed that if I ever became strong enough, I would protect Master with all my might. We would fight villains together, leap across rooftops, and wander the world together. But Master never taught me cultivation, saying I didn't need it. Grand Palace Master, you're the incredibly strong version of me, right? You must protect Master. Don't let your paths diverge too far. This is my final wish. Yuer. After finishing writing, Yuer gently blew on the ink to dry it. She looked up at Li Wei across from her, tears welling in her eyes, and forced a smile. Master, you must show her this letter someday. Master, I might have to leave soon. I'll miss you so much. The Huang River flowed heavily, it sounded like the voice of time itself, carrying everything away and bringing everything back. Li Wei was lost in a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, unable to bid Yuer farewell. Just as suddenly as they had met, she was gone. The lamplight flickered. When he looked up again, the Grand Palace Master was sitting across from him. Yu Yaozi stared at the letter in her hand. After a long silence, she carefully folded it and tucked it into her cosmic pouch. 3 days have passed. I think we've both calmed down. You were right, I was wrong this time, but not because of Tang Wanzhou. My mistake was not explaining my plans to you beforehand. If you had known what I intended to do, you would have agreed. As a leader bearing the fate of the entire life realm on my shoulders, surrounded by allies, how could I not scheme against my own people? How could I refrain from using them as tools? Blind benevolence would only lead to disaster and accomplish nothing. Moreover, if every action required exhaustive explanation and thorough consultation, many crucial initiatives would die in their infancy, paralyzed by indecision. Over the past 3 days, Li Wei had been reflecting, trying to understand the situation from Yu Yaozi's perspective. Yu Yaozi retreated further. I shouldn't have used such methods against you. You're different from them. What is the Grand Palace Master's true objective? Li Wei asked. Yu Yaozi gazed out the window. It would be better if she told you herself. The inn was eerily silent, not a soul in sight. Li Wei wondered what secret art the Grand Palace Master had employed. Even the streets outside were deserted, shrouded in a dim, oppressive darkness. Then came the heavy, measured footsteps. Tang Shituo's tall, majestic figure emerged from the shadows at the end of the street, radiating an aura of arrogant malice. His skin gleamed with a bronze-like luster, his palms broad and powerful, his features ruggedly handsome, and his gaze both domineering and resolute. The robust figure before him was a world apart from the frail, sickly man Li Wei had seen in Lingxiao City just 3 days ago. How could this man possibly be suffering from the 3 lifetimes curse? Li Wei's mind raced, countless thoughts flooding his mind as he turned to face Yu Yaozi. I already taught him the secret technique for refining curse marks, Yu Yaozi said. This palace master isn't as despicable as you imagine, is she? Li Wei desperately wanted to tell her to reread Yuer's letter, to understand that he had never thought her despicable. But he held his tongue. He rose to his feet and addressed Tang Shituo, who stood outside. I understand now. The lion taming king is trying to break free from the Sword Dao Imperial Court's manipulation and control, which is why he's pretending to still suffer from the 3 lifetimes curse. Tang Shituo's voice echoed through the chamber. In my youth, I was honored to be called an emperor disciple, making it difficult to defy the Sword Emperor's command. But the Lingxiao realm can no longer endure the chaos of north and south. As you said, the karma between me and the Sword Emperor must be resolved by me alone. I will not drag the Snow Sword Tang Court and the entire Lingxiao realm into the vortex of war to repay my personal debts. With all due respect, Princess Xiao's schemes alone, coupled with the lion taming king suffering under the 3 lifetimes curse, which he concealed from the world, already demonstrate profound respect for the Sword Emperor, Li Wei said. That's practically repaying a life debt. How could he possibly owe more to his teacher? Yu Yaozi replied, it's not that simple. To completely break free from the Sword Dao Imperial Court's control, to shed the burden of being their 3rd disciple, and to block their ambitions toward the East Sea, we need your help in Tang Wanzhou's. Our original plan was for you to create chaos at the Sword Dao Imperial City on wedding day. We wanted the world to witness the Sword Emperor's ruthless tactics in seizing Tang Wanzhou, a peerless prodigy. It was the Sword Dao Imperial Court that first treated Tang Wanzhou as a bargaining chip in their dealings with the demon monarch, seeking to destroy her. Tang Shituo had no choice but to sever ties with them to protect his daughter. This would have placed moral righteousness on our side, sparing Tang Shituo the stigma of ingratitude. If the Sword Dao Imperial Court still refused to withdraw from the Lingxiao realm, we would have helped them leave. Wei Yi, we fight to avoid fighting. It was to prevent the entire Lingxiao realm from being engulfed in war, to spare the Zuaoqiu sect and Snow Sword Tang Court from becoming sacrifices in the conflict between the Calamity Crossing Temple and the Sword Dao Imperial Court. I always believed you would agree, which is why I didn't tell you sooner. But now, I've changed my mind. I'm going to bring her back myself. Li Wei fell into deep thought, then gently shook his head. If the Grand Palace Master goes to retrieve her, wouldn't all our efforts be for naught? And by what authority, with what justification, can you intervene in this matter? The Shoutian Edict and the Mother-Child Spring have become public knowledge. The old men of the Sword Dao Imperial Court will undoubtedly seize this opportunity, along with the Snow Sword Tang Court's rebellion against the Lingxiao Palace, to mock and ridicule us. You'll lose momentum from the start, trapped in an awkward, indefensible position. The best course of action remains our original strategy: I'll act openly. The Grand Palace Master will accompany me, deterring the transcendence of the Sword Dao Imperial Court from breaking the rules. Meanwhile, the lion-taming king will negotiate directly with the Sword Emperor. This way, once the people of the Lingxiao realm learn the truth, their hatred for you will diminish, allowing you to rightfully return and take command of the situation. The moment Li Wei saw Tang Shituo, he understood the terms of their agreement. The Grand Palace Master would help Tang Shituo break the 3 lifetimes curse and free Snow Sword Tang Court from the Sword Dao Imperial Court's control. In return, the Grand Palace Master would use this battle, Snow Sword Tang Court's debt to Lingxiao City, their reputation for resolving the Mother-Child Spring crisis, and their strategy of ending war through war to return to the Lingxiao realm. Tang Shituo knew the stakes were too high for Snow Sword Tang Court to resist. Only the Grand Palace Master and Mist Heavenly Emperor's return could stabilize the situation. Tang Shituo might still harbor resentment toward the Grand Palace Master, but the Mist Heavenly Emperor had returned. Yu Yaozi walked outside the inn and looked at Tang Shituo. I was right, wasn't I? Once he knew the truth, he wouldn't refuse. Li Wei, Tang Shituo, let's go to the Sword Dao Imperial Court together, retrieve Tang Wanzhou, and repel their covetous greed. As I said before, win together, celebrate together, lose together, bear the consequences together. Come with me to the Huang River outside the city. Whoosh. Yu Yaozi transformed into a beam of light, piercing the darkness as she soared out of Wangjiang border city. Tang Shituo's heart jolted violently. He clasped his hands behind his back and vanished into the night sky above the street. Li Wei gazed at the wooden box and the scroll inside, a wave of melancholy washing over him, leaving him feeling strangely empty. He closed the box, clutched it tightly in his hand, and stowed it in his cosmic pouch. Activating his body technique, he moved with the speed of thunder and lightning, weaving through the city's architecture in a series of winding leaps and bounds. Finally, he landed on the banks of the ceaselessly flowing Huang River outside the city walls. Yu Yaozi stood proudly in the void, her glazed radiance piercing the night sky for 10,000 miles. From the border city to the East Sea, the Nether Realm's darkness along the 2,000-mile stretch of the Huang River vanished instantly, purified into nothingness. Graceful and ethereal, she hovered in the air, her gaze fixed on Li Wei by the riverbank. 2 years ago, I could have refined the cursed monstrous Yin Buddha lice. But I kept my promise to you. No matter how fierce the battles, how dangerous the circumstances, even when gravely wounded, I refused to refine them. Because I vowed to let you see you one last time. Today, the cursed abomination dies. I, Yu Yaozi, have broken through to Xuanhuan realm at the banks of the Huang River, ascending to the ranks of the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. T.N. Xuanhuan realm is the realm of martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. This is the realm after Heavenly Emperor. And before the Heavenly Emperor are the Dao Harmony realm and Transcendent realm, Immortal realm and so on. The final words echoed across the vast land, each syllable resonating like divine pronouncements. Countless creatures stirred from their slumber, gazing in awe at the glazed radiance illuminating the night sky. It's the Grand Palace Master. The Grand Palace Master. Heavens. The Grand Palace Master has attained enlightenment at the Huang River. As the saying goes, when one attains the enlightenment, even chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. The surrounding lands will undergo a profound transformation, and we too shall reap immense benefits. The million cultivators in Wangjiang border city were shaken to their core. They poured out of their dwellings, crowding the streets as they gazed at Yu Yaozi's figure, radiant as the midday sun. Then, as one, they knelt and prostrated themselves in worship. The spiritual chi between heaven and earth surged violently, converging madly toward Yu Yaozi. Boom. A heaven-law-earth spring materialized from thin air, gushing forth with torrents of spiritual chi that bathed her in its heavenly essence. With this heaven-law-earth spring, Wangjiang border city could one day develop into a prefecture city. Even more extraordinary phenomena erupted. 5-colored divine radiance descended from the sky, golden spiritual springs surged from the earth, greenstone transformed into jade, and weeds morphed into essence medicine herbs. Auspicious omens continued to manifest across the mountain ranges. Even the legendary phenomenon of universal amnesty appeared, causing all living things in the vicinity to grow wildly, as if freed from their restraints. For a brief moment, they were unbound by the laws of heaven and earth. Li Wei, at the moment of breakthrough to the Xuanhuan realm, my 9 springs far surpass the Dao nurturing crystal. They will grant you the equivalent of years of arduous cultivation in a single moment. Simultaneously, they will strengthen your foundation and rectify the flaws in your Dao techniques caused by your rapid advancement through excessive refinement of Dragon Soul Source Light. Yu Yaozi's 9 springs materialized in the void, cascading 9 waterfalls of spiritual power onto Li Wei below. The ground beneath Li Wei's feet instantly transformed into a 9-colored expanse, spreading in all directions. The ripples and aura of Yu Yaozi's ascension to the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor realm swiftly reached the Thundercloud sect, Zhuli clan, Lingxiao city, Zuoqiu sect, East Sea, Dragon City, and even the Nether Realm of the Dead, causing even greater shock. Message talismans flew like snowflakes to every major life realm. In southern Yingzhou, the 6th martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor of the human race had been born. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 150, 825 Paying homage to the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. 150th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. For top-tier transcendence, reaching the Heavenly Emperor realm was akin to scaling the world's highest and most treacherous peaks, creating an insurmountable gap between them and the rest, allowing them to survey all below. Before becoming a Heavenly Emperor, the lifespan limit was 6,000 years. After becoming a Heavenly Emperor, one could pursue the ultimate lifespan of 10,800 years, a full, single cycle. Therefore, across southern Yingzhou, among the human race, demon race, and rice people combined, there were only 28 Heavenly Emperors. The martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor realm was even more arduous. It wasn't merely climbing a mountain peak. It was ascending to the heavens themselves. Once one reached the Xuanhuan realm, the vast majority could withstand the 10,800 years minor cycle tribulation, thereby gaining another cycle of life. This extended their lifespan to 21,600 years. The 6,000 years limit and the 21,600 years lifespan marked the fundamental difference between top-tier transcendence and martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperors. How captivating cultivation was. It drove people to seek higher realms, to strive relentlessly. How could they not fight tooth and nail for opportunities to break through to the Heavenly Emperor realm and the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor realm? Eastern Territory, Thundercloud Sect. The sect leader of the Thundercloud sect, Leixiao sect, sensed the overwhelming fluctuations of the Xuanhuan realm breakthrough. His expression shifted dramatically as he waved his sleeve, remotely opening the formation and stone gate. His figure flickered with thunder and lightning as he appeared atop Thunder God Hall, gazing toward the distant Wangjiang border city. The horizon blazed with radiant glazed dawnlight. Heaven and earth's spiritual chi surged like tidal waves, layer upon layer crashing forward. Beneath the night sky, lanterns lit up across the Thundercloud sect, and figures soared into the air. Young martial mystic cultivators buzzed with speculation, offering various theories. Qin Tiansong, the strongest cultivator in the sect beneath the Transcendence, joined all the Immortal Realm martial mystic cultivators on the plaza outside Thunder God Hall, their body techniques carrying them swiftly to the scene. The Grand Palace Master has broken through to the Xuanhuan realm, becoming another martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor for the human race, with the authority to establish a nation. Thundercloud Sect's Immortal Realm martial mystic cultivators, heed my command. Follow me to the Huang River to congratulate the birth of the new martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. The sect leader of the Thundercloud sect had harbored ambitions toward the Lingxiao realm, but at this moment, all such thoughts vanished like smoke. To entertain such notions any longer would be to court annihilation. The Grand Palace Master's decision to break through not in the Holy Hall's life realm or the Void Ruins ancient kingdom, but in the eastern territory of Lingxiao, by the Huang River, spoke volumes. She was returning. East Sea. The Jellyfish clan ruled the sea area closest to the Lingxiao realm, including the Huang River and the river demons of the 36 major rivers that flowed into the East Sea. Whoosh! A vast expanse of sea lit up. White jellyfish clouds rose from the seabed, as massive as snow-capped mountains, drifting across the sky and illuminating thousands of miles of ocean as if it were daylight. The jellyfish ancestor's voice boomed across the waters, river demons of the 36 rivers, heed my command. Follow me to the Huang River to pay homage to the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. 2,800 years ago, after Zhenhai Guanwu slew the flying dragon, the Lingxiao realm's prefecture territory had extended 30,000 miles into the East Sea, granting them absolute control over that region. The demon clans in the remaining 60 to 70,000 miles of sea had also bowed in submission. During that era, the Jellyfish clan paid tribute to the Lingxiao palace every 60 years, serving as an outer vassal state. Yu Yaozi, a heavenly emperor-level cultivator, was preoccupied with the Western monster race, the Ember spirits, and the powerful entities of the Nether Realm of the Dead, the Holy Infant, Lord Lan, the 7 Vengeful Ones, and the 5 Ghost Kings. She couldn't possibly suppress the Eastern Sea Monster clan, even Lady Ji Chun had ceased paying tribute, let alone the jellyfish ancestor. A martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor was different. A martial Dao Heavenly Emperor could anchor the core territory of hundreds of prefectures. Their influence could extend to dozens of surrounding life realms. Yu Yaozi had now attained the Xuanhuan realm near the East Sea. It would be stranger if the Eastern Sea Monster clan didn't rush to pay homage. Even the great powers of the surrounding nether realm of the dead would be trembling in fear, and those with a sense of impending crisis would already be preparing to retreat. Not far from the East Sea lay Wuxia Lake. Lady Ji Chun, Sha Jin, and Master Guan immediately set out for the Huang River. Master Guan beamed with delight. The Mist Heavenly Emperor was indeed in poor condition, undergoing reincarnation. But now everything has changed. The Lingxiao Palace has one martial Dao Heavenly Emperor and Emperor Realm Psychic Master, one in the light, one in the shadows, one for offense, one for deterrence. If the one in the light is threatened, the one in the shadows will wipe out your lineage and destroy your realm. Who would dare act recklessly now? Sha Jin countered, the Lingxiao Palace's interests lie far from the core regions of the 100 realms of the living. They won't clash with the martial Dao Heavenly Emperors there. Going forward, the East Sea's resources will be divided according to the Mist Heavenly Emperor and the Grand Palace Master's wishes. We don't need to concede too much to them. Lady Ji Chun offered a different perspective. Even with overwhelming power, strategy is crucial. We can't afford to antagonize the Calamity Crossing Temple, Rice Palace, Demon Kingdom, and Sword Dao Imperial Court simultaneously, making the entire world our enemy. In my view, the Grand Palace Master should first force the Sword Dao Imperial Court to retreat, seize the Snow Sword Tank Court, and establish a legitimate reason to return to the Lingxiao realm. Then, we can defeat them one by one, forcing them to withdraw. Why should we worry about Yu Yaozi's political maneuvering? Master Guan scoffed, his smugness evident. Remember when I urged you to side with the Mist Heavenly Emperor early on? Didn't that benefit you? This is the merit of backing the winning side. Junior sister, Sha Jin continued, now that the Grand Palace Master has broken through to the Xuanhuan realm, she'll need to cultivate a Heavenly Emperor quickly to oversee the Lingxiao Palace's interests below the martial Dao Heavenly Emperor. The competition for this position will be fierce. When we go to offer our congratulations, keep a low profile. Senior brother will help you contend for it. In the southern territory of the Lingxiao realm, Xuanhuan Xuanming and Xuanhuan Ran stood beneath the peach trees on Peach and Plum Mountain, at the heart of Chu Prefecture City, gazing toward the East Sea. The Grand Palace Master's breakthrough at the Huang River is a clear message, Xuanhuan Xuanming said. She's reminding us she'll return, a warning and a reprimand. Xuanhuan Ran's white beard fluttered in the breeze, his eyes filled with worry. If we don't go, the consequences are unpredictable. But if we do, how will we explain ourselves to the Temple Master? No one knows what the Mist Heavenly Emperor and the Temple Master discussed. Do you think Calamity Crossing Temple would abandon the benefits of reviving the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon vein? We're caught between a rock and a hard place, unable to advance or retreat. Xuanhuan Xuanming clasped his hands behind his back, his mind in turmoil. After careful consideration, he said, find Li Yuange and ask him to establish a connection. We must have a proper discussion with the Mist Heavenly Emperor. 1,000 years ago, the Xuanhuan sect had submitted to the Mist Heavenly Emperor and harbored no grudges against her. In fact, during the Battle of Lingxiao City, they had contributed significantly, holding back the Twin Rice sect. Destroying the Six Thoughts Divine Mind Curse altar beneath the city could even be considered indirect assistance to the Grand Palace Master. Who should we send to the Huang River? Xuanhuan Ran asked. Sending a transcendent would obviously be inappropriate. Sending a cultivator below the transcendent realm would lack sufficient weight and risk offending the Grand Palace Master. Xuanhuan Xuanming replied, prepare a generous gift and the Xuanhuan sect token. Intercept Li Yuange on his journey. Send Xuanhuan Lanshan and Xuanhuan Ling together. Whether Xuanhuan Lanshan can represent the Xuanhuan sect, or not. She can represent the transcendence, or not. It all depends on her. On the banks of the Huang River. A group of beavers gnawed at the trunks of ancient trees, sharpening their long incisors. Still gnawing. Can't you see something big is happening? The water beaver immortal emerged from the river, stepping on a dark red cloud of spiritual qi, and kicked several of the beavers and their offspring flying. The Huang River King, Beaver Ancestor, Crown Prince Ba, and other river demons of the Huang River swiftly gathered and raced upstream, stopping collectively 50 li from the border city. The water beaver immortal surveyed the drastically altered waters and land, sensing the dense spiritual qi surging from the heaven law earth spring. He whispered excitedly, the martial Dao Heavenly Emperor is attaining enlightenment. The cultivation environment here is improving dramatically. The Huang River is about to flourish, this is a sign of prosperity. I fear it's an omen of disaster, the beaver ancestor said, his voice heavy with worry. We are demons, after all, and half traitors at that. We haven't rebelled, but we haven't obeyed the imperial court's directives either. He feared that the Grand Palace Master's breakthrough in the Huang River might lead her to slaughter the river's demons as a display of power. The water beaver immortal chuckled. I'm quite familiar with the Grand Palace Master. She once patted my head affectionately and called me Ali. And the beaver ancestor quickly clapped a hand over his mouth. The Grand Palace Master's misfortune and exile to the East Sea were forbidden topics. The more powerful a person is, the less they appreciated others dwelling on their past weaknesses and curses they suffered. Spiritual chi and laws of heaven and earth flowed ceaselessly into the Grand Palace Master's 9 springs. Billions of inscriptions, like a starry ocean or the great Tao's sacred texts, pierced through Li Wei's body. Li Wei's comprehension speed reached unprecedented levels. His understanding of the martial mystic Tao surged like cascading waterfalls, tearing through the mists of confusion and revealing the essence of truth. The higher one's cultivation in the immortal realm, the more time it took to achieve a breakthrough. During his 2 years trapped in the blood-mud space, Li Wei had fully refined the earth and wind down nurturing crystals. With the aid of the 5-colored mountain and the time cocoon, he had only managed to advance from the early 5th immortal realm to the mid-5th immortal realm, nearing its peak. The immortal golden core's inscription count had increased from 1.5 million to 2.1 million. This was already an astonishingly rapid pace, considering Li Wei also had to cultivate the golden holy bone manual, psychic power, and study formations. Now, bathed in the surging 9 springs spiritual power unleashed during the martial Tao Heavenly Emperor's breakthrough, Li Wei's cultivation realm soared. He had already broken through to the peak of the 5th immortal realm. Without relying on starlight, he sought the 6th immortal shackle. The 6th immortal shackle automatically appeared in his vision. The Grand Palace Master completed her breakthrough and stabilized her realm in less than half an hour. The inscription count on Li Wei's immortal golden core surged to over 3 million. The nearly million newly acquired immortal inscriptions were no longer limited to dragon inscriptions, Tao inscriptions, earth attribute inscriptions, or wind attribute inscriptions. Instead, they formed a more balanced composition. The immortal golden core within his divine gate grew brighter and more stable. Even more remarkable was the increase in scripture count on his golden bone, which doubled from 1 million to 2 million. His physical body underwent another transformation. Its strength now rivaled that of a mid-7th realm martial mystic cultivator, capable of withstanding their attacks with sheer physical power alone. With 3 million inscriptions on his golden bone, his physical body corresponded to the peak of the 7th immortal realm. The 3 transformations between 4 million and 6 million inscriptions corresponded to the Tao Harmony realm. Only after the 7th physical body enhancement, achieved with 7 million inscriptions, would it become possible to challenge heavenly ranking experts with physical prowess alone. Of course, Li Wei cultivated his martial mystic Tao, psychic power, and physical body simultaneously. By the time his physical body reached its 7th transformation, whether any opponents would remain on the heavenly ranking capable of matching him remained to be seen. The combined inscriptions from the immortal golden core and golden bone exceeds 5 million inscriptions, rivaling the inscriptions count within the body of a mid-7th immortal realm martial mystic cultivator. Now, in the 5th immortal realm, inscriptions quantity is no longer my weakness but my strength. Li Wei internally examined his 6th immortal shackle. Countless cracks riddled its surface. If he were willing to pay the price, risking damage to his physical body and soul spirit, he could attempt to break it right now. However, Li Wei saw no need for such haste. With nearly 2 months remaining until the end of the Immortal Ascension competition, he could continue to slowly chip away at it. Though still in the 5th immortal realm, his combat prowess had undergone a transformation in the past 2 hours. He could now hold his own even against Tao Harmony realm experts like Xuanhuan. An hour later, the Grand Palace Master's spiritual chi fluctuations completely subsided. The Transcendents, traveling at full speed, had already begun arriving at the Huang River in significant numbers. The Thundercloud sect congratulates the Grand Palace Master on ascending to the position of Martial Tao Heavenly Emperor. May she shake the 4 corners of the world, and may she extend to eternity. The Eastern Sea Monster Clan, with its 36 river demon legions, congratulates the Grand Palace Master on her eternal reign and her restoration of Lingshao's former glory. The Flower Demon Clan of Wuxia Lake offers its respects to the Grand Palace Master on her breakthrough to the Xuanhuan realm. May her youth endure forever, her territories expand across 1,000 states, and her dynasty reign for 10,000 generations. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.